you've had a couple days now. How much have you kind of been poring over, what, where you stand when it comes to, the other bubble teams, like
Mm-hmm.
what the criteria might be? Like, just have you really dove into it, or has it been like more just, hey, we're going to prepare that we got a game to play either way?
No, yeah, we've been pouring over it, and I think it's been like the perfect activity for me to get my mind off of the loss, right? So like that's me as a person, right? That takes me a while to get over any loss, but that one especially. So I think it's been a good activity, and it's given me an education because we've been studying it, and right now, right, there's no opponent, so I don't have to watch film of who we're playing next and stuff like that. So it gives me a chance to like dive in, right? And so, I've got like selection criteria. Like we've studied that. We've put all of our information into that. We came up with Alex has been awesome with this stuff. But put it all in a sheet of paper to get around, and then the Sun Belt came through with a pretty extensive packet too. We're asking Keith and Kathy at the Sun Belt to just reach out to anybody they know on the committee related to the committee. Same with Matt and Jen Phillips, and they've all done great for us, making calls to who they know, right? And I don't know. What helps, right? I don't know the exact formula for this. I talked to Meg Griffin at Columbia, who did a great job last year with this, and she said, "Look, you can have all this stuff, and I'd like to talk about some of it, but they got to see you for what you are." Right, and that's the crucial piece, and you can't make somebody see. I kind of relate the committee to like a jury, right? Like you can give them a statement, you can present them with a fact, but they still got to see you for what they are, and they have choices, right? So the one thing I'd like to almost start with is like, all right, you remember, Shane, right? You remember 2018 UMBC beat Virginia, right? You remember that for years, right? Maybe the rest of your life, right? Okay, you remember Missouri playing Florida State in the first round of that?
I do not.
No idea, right? You have no idea, because that's not what this whole thing is about. That's not what this whole thing is about. It's about giving those opportunities to mid-majors, and you'll remember that forever. So your viewership is up, right? Your entertainment is up, right? And that's what the bigger picture of this whole thing is. We have enough where you can put us in. You have Georgia Tech and Indiana. You have enough to put them in too, right? But what's the best thing for our game and making our game grow more, right? To me, it's when we go to the Sweet 16, and I think that's a better piece of entertainment than watching Minnesota or Indiana go to the Sweet 16. And my one of my best friends in the world coaches for Indiana, and I've been talking to him once a day. We're talking trash to each other. But like, what's more exciting? What's more exciting? And we're prepared enough. I got stats for days, but that's not part of the criteria. There's one thing: observable component. That's part of the criteria. Is that part of that? Right? Like that you want an absolute stud playing in the NCAA tournament and carrying her team. She's averaging 18 a game in any postseason game, shooting 52% in the postseason. Like, you don't want that in your game, right? So that part for me is like first and foremost. I think that's a really valuable piece, right? And so I'm prepared to go into a lot more. But I think growing the game and the entertainment value in women's basketball, right? And I used the UMBC Virginia, but man, I remember to this day Mercer beating Duke as a 14 seed, and whatever kid that was dancing in a huddle with Mercer, like I was glued to our TV. I remember when I was in college watching UNC Wilmington beat Maryland, right? Like I was glued to my TV because of that, and I'm not going to be glued, to watch Washington play Ole Miss, right? Or whatever ends up being. That's just, I think, my perspective, and of course I'm biased because we are where we are. I think that's maybe the headliner for me is putting this game in position. But look, when we talk about us, right, and I know that the positives have been said quite often. We won 28 games, we won 20 in a row, all that stuff, right? If you go through it, right, and what we're lacking is significant wins. That's what my guy at Indiana's like. Yeah, you haven't beaten a team in the NCAA tournament field. That's the knock on us. Okay, so all right, our non-conference strength of schedule is 26th in the country, and of all the bubble teams, it's hands down the best strength of schedule of all the bubble teams. Does it? Not even close. Not even close. And I can go through it. You go non-conference strength of schedule: Georgia Tech 163, right? Indiana 52, Nebraska 170, Oregon 92, Iowa 82, Washington 202, Princeton 120, Harvard 201, right? Virginia Tech 151, St. Joe's 200. So all right. So we have built this tough non-conference schedule, okay? 26th in the country, non-conference strength of schedule. And we have 3 NCAA tournament teams in that schedule. We only had 3 opportunities, right? NC State, Notre Dame, and Texas. Villanova is not an NCAA tournament team this year, right? VCU is not an NCAA tournament team this year. Florida, not an NCAA tournament team this year. Northern Arizona, all good teams, but not NCAA tournament teams. So you're penalizing us for making a really challenging schedule, okay? A really challenging schedule, but you only end up having 3 opportunities, and we're just 0 for 3 against them. Now, Ball State could be the 4th if they end up making the field, and we did. That would be one NCAA tournament team that we beat. And I think that's important to know, right? Like, you're asking us to schedule and create opportunities, but you can't control other people. We can only control what we have. And so I thought we took advantage of most of our opportunities, and losing the 2 games we did in overtime, in single digits, one in the championship and one on a neutral floor, I don't think those are huge bad losses, right? That's one of the things. It's like competitive in losses. Yeah, I think that's competitive in your losses. But I'll stop there, see where else you want me to go, because I got a lot to share today.
Yeah. I did find it interesting that you mentioned talking to Columbia, which may end up being one of the other bubble teams.
Could be.
Like, just how much is there, I guess, that coaching camaraderie that, this is all being discussed, and, that you can go to someone there for advice, even though you may be, like, battling each other in the end?
Yeah, well, I've known Megan a long time. When I first took over in 2016, I went around and made a list of every coach that was starting and taking over program in 2016. And we got 6 coaches together. I was the 6th. And we got together once a year, and she was in that group. And we just wanted to go on the journey together. Now, some people had, we won 26 games that year. She didn't win in barely any, right? There was a couple of people. So it was like, I've known her a long time, and I think she was very open about sharing. And I think she's very confident in her resume. I think they've done a really good job this year and are top of the Ivy. So yeah, she might be in this mix here too. But yeah, she's a longtime friend, so I think she was open to sharing. And I wish it was like, tell me the formula. She didn't. You can't. There's no formula, right? It's like you've got to really just present, right, and talk to people and present and talk to people and tell them why you should be in. And yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons why, right? We should be in, but they're speaking of them, right? They got in last year with a net 57. So my first calls, everybody would told me like, yeah, your net, it's just not. And I'm so sick of the net, it's crazy. But all right, they got in at 57 last year. And I know every year's different, right? And the combination of teams is different, but we're sitting at 54. Our RPI is sitting at 29, okay? And the only other part I want to add here is like none of these teams, so like Indiana, Nebraska, Oregon, Washington, Princeton, Harvard, Virginia Tech, UNLV, St. Joe's, none of them are getting votes in the AP poll or the coaches poll. None of them. Okay, we have 13 in the AP poll and 7 in the coaches poll. Like, explain that to me. So the nation or the voters, right, respect what we have and what we're doing and the 20 games we won in a row, right? But but we're technically behind Washington, who finished 12th in the Big Ten. And again, I got a good friend on Washington, David Atkins, really good guy. His daughter just graduated from here. But that's your choice, right? You're sitting here as a committee, and that's your choice. And they got great wins. They got way more quad one wins than we do. Way more. And finished really good. Finished 5 out of 6. So I'm not even picking at them. But, like, that's what your choice is. 12th best team in the Big Ten, or a very, very dominant mid-major that had a bad 5 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever you want to say are bad, maybe 1 minute. I don't know. Right, and I think that says something for, right, part of these selection, observable component. Like, people are voting for us. Like, that would be top of the list in an observable. I don't know what observable component is, Dave. What do you think that is? Right, but I think that, right, the nation wants to see this team play. The nation respects the team, and I'm not saying everybody in the nation, but that's the women's basketball community. Is you have writers in the AP poll, and you have coaches that both have voted for us in those polls, and not how many teams I just named? 8 teams that are on the bubble, and 8 of them that are in above us, according to bracketology, which is all I can go on right now. So I don't know that. I think it's. I'll tell you this. This stuff. Bad losses. Okay. Common opponents, which we have a little bit, like St. Joe's, right? I don't really understand their argument. They finished 12-6 in the A10. They got a lot of bad losses, but they beat Mason and Mason, which is a quad 1 win, stuff like that. But common opponents, right? We both played Villanova. We beat them. They didn't. Another common opponent. Who else are we talking about? VCU, right? We beat VCU at VCU. They did not. Okay. Competitive in losses. Early performance versus late performance. So that's like Washington's argument is they're hot now. They won 5 out of 6. We had won 20 out of 21. Not terrible. We have no head-to-head matchups. Our net ranking, observable component, overall record, regional rankings. Have you seen regional rankings? It's like the ECAC back in there. I don't know what a regional ranking is. Significant wins, right, which we're lacking that, and strength of schedule. Non-conference, we're 26 in the country. It's like I'm looking at that like I don't see a world here where we don't belong in this conversation. I don't see it, and it can happen, right? But you got Indiana, Nebraska, Oregon, and Iowa all tied for 8th at 10-8 in the Big Ten. And that's tough to beat, right? That's a lot of that's a pack of teams that won't separate. So I think that has a lot to do with, right? You give Indiana 2 more wins and 2 less to Iowa. I think Iowa's out of the conversation, right? Being 8 and 10 in the league. But I know I'm all over the place, but I got a lot to get out, and I've been studying this stuff for a week, and I want everybody to know. This team is so deserving, right? And I don't think I'm alone in that feeling. I'm not. I think we need a shot to be on that stage. And yeah, I kick myself multiple times a day, okay, for not securing this opportunity for her and our team, okay, down in Pensacola. Multiple times a day. Okay, but I still think what we've done this year, and we've talked about it, and that's why we stayed focused for 20 straight games, is because now this team is an NCAA tournament team, and let's just play our heart out every day, just in case something bad happens down in a conference tournament, which happens. And that's what I think. I just think we're deserving. So I'll see what you guys want me to talk about next, or maybe Peyton can talk.
We'll get back to you here in a second. Let's let Peyton talk for a minute. Have you dove into the numbers, P, and done a lot of the stuff that your coaches are doing?
I've heard a lot of it just from them. I don't understand all of the numbers quite as in detail as they do, but from my perspective, this team is just so deserving. Given what we did in the regular season with our 20-game win streak, and then being able to go 18-0 in conference, like that's something that has never been done at JMU and hasn't been done for a long time in the Sun Belt. And I think a lot of times they're asking us to judge our season based off of one game, whereas a lot of these other teams in the bubble, they don't have to do that based on who they play in the in the regular season. Just because we're in the Sun Belt, we're getting penalized for that, and I don't think we deserve that based off what Coach O said. We went into every game this is a championship game. And that's how we ended up winning 20 games and going 18-0. So, I mean, I just think this team is so deserving, especially coming in with Anna and Jamia. Like, we've been at this together for 5 years. Like, we started from the ground up. You see people transferring left and right, but being able to stay with this group and, like, build it with Coach O and Coop and Alex and just putting in the work each day, I don't know. I think we're so deserving of it.
I'll add to that, too. You've got the bullseye on your back, too. Everybody's going after you with their best shot every single game, and you're still finding ways to win all these games. But for you, just talk about the emotions this week. Are there a lot of anxious moments this week? Is it tough to sleep this week? How is this week for you?
Yeah, for sure. And it's just a lot of uncertainty because it's kind of out of our hands at this point. You don't know what's going to happen, and you're just trying to show the resume that we do have. Because, I mean, given our resume, like, we beat Florida, we beat Villanova at Villanova, we beat Ball State in the middle of our season, in the middle of our 20-game win streak, where it's a non-conference game. You haven't seen them really watch them play because you're watching all the other Sun Belt teams, and we're being judged by the one team that we ended up not playing in the regular season. So, I mean, you can consider that as almost like a non-conference game. Like, we never played them. We had never seen them before. So I think it's just tough to be judged on one game.
Is it nice as a player to have all the support from your coaches going through all this, from the Sun Belt, from the athletic director and his staff, to have all that support?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's awesome because I think there are people that see, like, we do belong and we do have that backing. But I think it's important to show, like, we have the resume to prove, that we belong with the rest of these teams.
Coach, one other knock that people are talking about is the Sun Belt wasn't strong. The numbers, the analytics aren't great with the Sun Belt. But in your opinion, in now the 3 years you've been in it, have you seen the Sun Belt take a step? Do you feel like the teams that need to are starting to come up a little bit? Do you feel like it's getting to where you need it to be, or on the way anyway?
Yeah, I do. I thought this year there was, and not anybody's fault, but it was like a couple teams had to take a step back. New coaches, new somebody taking over a program, and a lot of the really good players left last year, right? Izzy Higginbottom, Dom Davis, either graduation or it was time to move on. Taryn Ward from Georgia Southern. Like, there was a lot of change this year. But that's the toughest part, right? Is that is completely out of our hands. Like, completely out of our hands. We're doing everything we can do, and you just can't control the league, which I didn't think was bad, right? Like, I respect all these coaches, and you know what? I need to shout them out because they have not been silent through this. Like, Alora Sharp from App State is calling me after the championship game. Like, what can I do to help? Shanda Rigby, who's our RAC representative, regional advisory committee, who her job is to kind of talk about our league. And if, last year it was more pertinent, right? Susha was out with an injury, whatever. But what can I do, right? Destiny Rogers, what can I do, right? Gene Hill, I talked to Gene Hill yesterday. What can I do? And I'm like, pass information to your ADs. Somebody's got a connection to somebody somewhere. But to answer your question, I think the league was good. We finished 13th overall, which is not outstanding as a league, but it's good. It's not 20th, and this league, like use Ark State, they beat the crap out of Arizona State in the non-conference, right? Like, we've had high major wins. Georgia State beat. It's like Georgia. ODU beat SMU. Like, give this group a shot, man. Give this group a shot. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ark State gets, like, with their style of play and how well they're playing, right? Like, they're playing well. So I just think it's the league has grown. I think the league needs to continue to grow. And because if you look at the success of, and why I think Princeton, Harvard, Columbia, right? If you look at St. Joe's, and Richmond will be an at-large down for the A-10. So why are those leagues better than us, right? Because they had multiple people have a really good non-conference success rate, right? And that's so if you can do that, use the Ivy because, Columbia, Harvard, Princeton, elite. Everybody else in that league has not been. So they don't lose to anybody else like us, but when they lose, when Princeton beats Columbia, it's not a bad loss. When they beat Columbia, it's a quad 1, quad 2 win, right? Harvard's beaten Princeton beat Harvard twice, and they're playing today, and I'm going to be glued to that screen because whoever loses that game, I think, is out. And I think it'd be better. I think Harvard's got a little better resume than Princeton, so I'm rooting for the Crimson Tide today. But they benefited from each other. And they didn't have a hiccup, right? They didn't lose to Brown or Yale, but like they didn't have a hiccup. And same with St. Joe's. St. Joe's is in this conversation because they beat Mason at Mason and they beat Richmond in the tournament. But they're 12-6 in their league. You lost to Duquesne and VCU and Dayton. It's like that's what we need as a league. We need a top-heavy league in the sense of, hey, we're 18-0, Arc State's 17-1, Troy's 17-1, right? ODU's 7, whatever. I don't. It doesn't matter what teams are. That's the formula for multiple bids, and we got close, but. This league is so competitive and they play so hard. It is hard to go to Georgia State and find a way to win. It's hard to go to wherever and find a way to win. But I think that's a big part of it. And I do think the league is getting better, and I do appreciate all these coaches reaching out and trying to help because they know, just like the nation knows, we should be in this thing and we should be playing. And why do you structure the NCAA tournament with this? I think it's a great idea, right? You battle for these 11 seeds. So you take the 11 seeds, you put them together. Why would you want Washington playing Iowa and an 11 seed get in? No, that's exactly what it's for. JMU, Washington. All right, it's like a playing game. Put us in that game, and we'll prove it, right? And that's what, for the most part, happens. Like last year, Columbia played Vandy in that game. They're both bubble teams. Great. Give us the opportunity. People will watch that more and be entertained more with that than they will, and no offense, Washington, and they're two Big Ten teams, so it doesn't make as much sense, but Washington playing Indiana, that's a Big Ten game that they played a little while ago. It's like, no, I don't think people want to see that. We're trying to make women's basketball a better product and bigger nationally. Have some fun. Let's have Mercer Duke, right? Let's have those matchups that people are going to remember and people are going to watch. Sorry.
On this committee, it's out there. We know that the director of athletics of Yale is in that. Mm-hmm. We know, so that person can speak to the Ivy League. You have the director of athletics at St. Joe's. Mm-hmm. St. Joe's is a bubble team. You have the executive associate athletics director at San Diego State, can speak to the Mountain West, UNLV. Mm-hmm. So what's your pitch to those people who are affiliated with some conferences who might have an at-large?
Well, listen, Corey, right? It's like a jury, Kurt. Okay, and the jury, right? They have to be impartial. They have to be, and if you're getting into biases, I don't think they should be on the committee, right? They have to look at this objective. They have to look at our resume blind, things like that. Because you can go to the Villanova SWA or AD, Lynn, senior associate. So she watched us firsthand. Right, so she's going to be in that room and watched us come through down, fight through, win at Villanova, okay, versus St. Joe's. Yeah, I saw that game too, and Villanova. It's like there has to be some objective thought here. But yeah, look at the numbers speak. The numbers speak, and I know we don't have some like Harvard has a win at Indiana. Great win for them. Well deserved. Like that's why I'm not as much coming for Harvard. I think you deserve that, right? But like I don't think the same just because you beat a conference opponent, which is a lot of Princeton's good wins, which is St. Joe's good wins. They're not out of conference. They're in conference, right? UNLV's more like us than anybody else in the sense of she won a million games in a row just like we did. Yeah, so their net is higher than us at 46. Okay, their best win is at 78 Wyoming. We have better wins than UNLV. Okay, because Villanova was sitting at 68 or 69 yesterday, and Ball State's pushing 70 as well. And I'll tell you, I'm gonna add one more thing on here, okay? Because I want you guys to understand. So we make our non-conference schedule. I lost it now. We make our non-conference schedule right now. right? So we're making it for next year. During the summer last year, they changed the quads. They changed the quads for women's basketball. So you use Arc State, which is our bad loss. So anything on a neutral floor over 106, which is their net was 154 when we played them. So that becomes a quad 4 loss. Okay, but last year, anything over 201. So that would have been a quad 3 loss. Not a bad loss for us. But you just changed the quads for no reason. It doesn't match up with the men, and it makes no sense to me why all of a sudden we just changed the quads to help who? Not us, right? And so that's what this system is. It's crazy. Any home game, okay, now, it used to be 160, above 161. Home game. So it's under 161, that's a quad 4. Over 161 is a quad 4. Now it's 91. If you play a 92 rated net team at home, and you lose, that's a quad 4 loss. So there's 350 something Division I teams. You're talking about, I can't even do the math on that. 260 teams, you play them at home, it's a quad 4 loss if you lose. It's crazy. Anyway, so that I think is a bigger point in question, is that I think that part has to be reevaluated, because that really does it groups people together, and it's really hard to overcome that. But I don't even know where I was going at. Where were we? Okay, committee. Yeah, sorry, that was on my mind too. No, I think. I really do. I think they have to see, and look, those committee members, and I don't take it this way, but if you go through that list, there's a good amount of people that should appreciate mid-major basketball. That's a fact. And we've done like research on those people to like played at Northeastern or there's an assistant AD on there that graduated from JMU. So like we know that, but again, I'm not. They have a job to do, right? Just like a jury has a job to do, and they can't let any sort of affiliation get in the way of what their job is. And I think if they did, they shouldn't be on that committee. So I trust them to be objective and look at the numbers, but there's a bigger part here than just the numbers, right? And the bigger part is the game of women's basketball and where we're trying to go. And I'm telling you, if you go to any college dorm room, right, on this Thursday coming up, they're going to have their TVs up, they're going to have whatever, food, drink, whatever, and they're going to be watching the men's basketball tournament for what? Not for Florida State, Missouri. That's not what they're tuned in for. They got a 12 seed they think is going to upset a 5 seed, and that's what they're tuned in for. They're not tuned in for Florida State, Missouri in a 7-10 game. No one cares about that game. It's like we want the drama. We want the upset. We want the Cinderella, okay? And I think you're looking at a team that I'm not just asking for that because I love Peyton McDaniel. I'm asking for that because it's deserved, and it's a huge opportunity for us to be able to show what we've done all year, okay? And I will add on her, and John, you can cut this up. This is an awesome stat, though. You guys know this? Okay. I know we know this. One of 2 players in the last 5 seasons to average 14 or more points per game and 6 or more rebounds per game with 250 or more makes from 3 in a career. Right? The other is Caitlin Clark. Okay? People like watching Caitlin Clark? Yeah, they do. So let this kid play in the NCAA tournament. Okay? And not to mention the last 3 seasons, I told you guys, she's averaging 18.8 points per game. This is all postseason play. 7.5 rebounds a game and shooting 52%. Come on. Like, let this kid play in the postseason on the biggest stage.
Talk about, if you guys do get into the tournament, what that preparation would look like and just how that would feel for you guys.
You can go.
Okay. Biggest game of the year. Like, just how we take every game, but just, the same preparation that we always have, and just, getting ready for whoever we're going to play.
And then, Coach, you mentioned that people have been calling you and being like, what can I do? How can I help? And you talked about how helpful Alex has been, and we've seen Alex and Neil kind of campaigning for you guys. Like, how helpful is that for you to have a staff like that that's just campaigning so hard and getting those numbers out there for people to see?
Yeah, it just shows, I think, who we are. And it's, you know, the expression of like it takes a village. I think it does. And that includes Corey. Corey's putting out great stuff. That includes John. That includes this room, right? Being willing to fight for this team because they know what this team is capable of. And I think they've loved watching this team. And, you know, look, the good part about all this, we're playing another game. You know, but it's crazy to me that, like, you know, a missed shot or a stretch of time just wipes it all. Like, come on, man. And that it could be the reality, right? But no, and P's right. That's what we're gonna do, no matter what. No matter what, we'll be ready to play, and we're going to play it like it's the biggest game of the year because that's what those are our habits. And when we show up to practice today, I expect them, when we do smash and sink drill, I expect that drill to be done really well because those are our habits. And that's what we've built over time. That becomes who you are, right? It's why you make your bed in the morning, right? You get up and make your bed. It's part of your habits. And that's what I expect from this group. Let's keep it going, Shane.
Won't keep you all day, but
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned earlier that, you know, there were multiple Sun Belt teams that beat middle of the pack SEC teams, including yourself. Flip side of that, you know, Coastal maybe doesn't play the toughest non-conference schedule, but winds up with a very good non-conference record and pretty solid net.
Yep.
Given, you know, what they did in conference and everything. So how do you schedule next year? Like, how does the whole league look at scheduling next year when maybe there's not a clear guideline as to what actually ends up helping you?
Correct. You know, I've been talking to a lot of people. Somebody asked me that along the way and said, will this change the way you schedule? And the answer is, I'll tell you after Sunday, right? Because my gut is, no, man, I'm not. You guys know how I am. I want to play. I want to play the best. I want to play Virginia. I want to play Virginia Tech every year for the record. And like, I want that as much as I can because this to me, like if we're going to go through another Sun Belt year with no opportunities to get a quad one win, we have to create quad one opportunities in the non-conference. And I think that's the only way I know how to do this. To me, the other way is like, I don't know if it matters. Use Coastal, right? Let's say they were like 10-2, I think, non-conference or something very close to that. Let's say they even go 18-0. Are they in? I don't know the answer, right? And so if you're going to punish us for not having quad one wins, then it's just you just have to win the tournament. I don't think I'm going to accept that. And look, scheduling is hard. Like for us to end up with a 26 out of conference strength of schedule is hard. We got an ACC school that we were supposed to return to them this year, and they were like, "Nah, can we push that to next year?" Like that's it. That's an opportunity for us. It's like, no, I don't want to push it, and they were like, "Yeah, can we push it?" And it's like, okay, right? So like, it's hard to get those opportunities, and that's why it's easier sometimes to get a Texas or a Notre Dame because they're one of the best teams in the country. It's really hard to get those Florida, right, to come to you, right, or Virginia Tech or Virginia, which both said no last year, right, and will probably say no again, you know. And so it's really hard to find that sweet spot, and that's why I think beating Florida in the neutral tournament is a big one and really helped us. And I think those neutral tournaments is where you're going to get your best opportunities to beat teams like that. And look, Northern Arizona's a really good team. I can't believe they didn't win their league, but and I got a lot of respect for them. So when we played them, I was like, that team's going to win their league by a mile, and they didn't. Everybody goes through their own journey, but the answer is I don't exactly know, but I don't see myself going the other way in scheduling and trying to soften it up for wins or anything like that. Like we want challenges. This kid wants challenges, right? So what can we do? Here's another question, and this is not related to any of this, but like we don't play Troy next year in the Sun Belt. Maybe we play them non-conference, right? Because I didn't like going into the championship game you're playing a non-conference opponent basically, playing Ball State in the championship, and you've never played. It's like I don't know the speed of Chrisland Rose exactly, right? And so like we talked about that with Matt and Jen yesterday. It was like maybe we play Troy. And just so you've had every Sun Belt team. I don't know. It's something we're going to talk about when the dust settles.
Have you talked to Chandra about that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. It just popped in my head yesterday.
She'll get the news right now. But
yeah.
Another thing about, I guess this isn't scheduling, but the net earlier this season, you go to South Alabama. Mm-hmm. You lead that game by 28 in the second half. Obviously, Peyton, Susha aren't playing 40 minutes a game in the middle of conference season on the road when you have it won. Ends up being a 14-point win, and you drop in the net.
Correct.
Like, if you had to do it over again, or if you're in the same situation next year, do you? I don't know if run the score up is the right term, but like,
it's a tough question because there's a balance, right? And if I had the exact metric or the exact, hey, if you win every game by 35, or like Murray State's weirdly in this conversation, and I was diving into them, and it's like they're so efficient offensively. That's part of what helps. And so I think in the end, right, my staff is constantly on me at the end of games. Like, get P out. Can you get P out? Can you get P out? I'm like, no. Like, no. And it's not for the net, but it's a flaw. That's a flawed system. The net is totally flawed. Or maybe it's not. Maybe they want it to be like this. But it's constantly on my mind. Because to your point, if I pedal down and we win by 38, how much does that help us? Do we still go up in the net? Do we go down in the net? I don't know, and I don't think you know, right? And like, that's the tough part of the whole thing is like, you think it's better, but you're still playing, I don't know what South Al's net would be, but a 270, 280 type of net probably, right? So is it just the game, right? Or is it how much of it is the margin or just your efficiency? And so no, I think it's two things, right? You have that whole conversation with the net, but you also have making sure she stays healthy and Susha stays healthy, right? It's giving opportunities to Alana Poole that we might need down the stretch or something like that. So that's part. There's so many parts of that decision. And if I knew exactly how much it would help us, then I think my answer would be an easier decision, right? So